Hello and welcome back. Now, in the previous lecture, we were looking at remedies for breach of contract, in particular damages. Now, damages is the only remedy which you are entitled to as a matter of law. It's kind of the default position, if you like. The remedies we see here, specific performance and an injunction, these remedies are what we call equitable remedies. Now, the court will only order an equitable remedy if it thinks that damages would not be adequate. Damages would not fix this problem. Instead, they need to do something more. We therefore call these remedies discretionary. And it's up to the claimant to show the court that this is the remedy that they need. So the first one, specific performance. This is where the court actually forced the other party to go ahead with the contract, to complete it. So instead of just paying damages and buying themselves out of trouble, they actually are forced to complete the whole deal. Now, if that was, say, a sale of land, the court could order the person to sign the transfer document, or could even sign it for the individual if they don't do it themselves. So, only where damages are not adequate. Now, there are a couple of cases where specific performance will not be given. One of those is a contract for personal service, an employment contract, if you like, because the courts sort of regard that as pretty much close to slavery. They can't force a person to work for somebody else. Now, the other case when the courts won't order specific performance is when they can't supervise it. They can't make sure that the other party has carried out their side of the bargain. So, for example, a building contract. You never see a judge on a building site in his wellies checking that the footings have been correctly dug and so on. And for that reason, the court wouldn't order specific performance of a contract like that. They can't make sure that both sides are carrying out their obligations under the contract. Where we do see specific performance is in contracts for the sale of land. Because the court regards each item of land, each parcel of land, as being individual and being unique, and therefore damages would never be enough, because even though it might allow you to go and buy an equivalent patch of land, it will never be possible for you to take damages and go and buy an identical patch of land. Therefore, you can only get that patch of land if the court specifically forces the other party to complete their contract. Now, another discretionary remedy is the injunction. Now, we've probably all heard the word injunction. It's a court order, effectively. Now, there are three types of injunction: a mandatory, prohibitory, and an asset freezing injunction. Now, a mandatory injunction is one where the court makes an order to tell someone to do something, to make them do an act. So, for instance, if they've breached a contract by building a garden wall on your land, the court will give an injunction which orders them to demolish that wall. A prohibitory injunction is one that stops someone from doing something. So, for example, something that enforces an agreement in your title deeds that your neighbour will not build a wall on your boundary. To observe a negative promise in a contract. You might also see the court enforcing a prohibitory injunction in the case of a restraint of trade covenant. You know those provisions you get in an employment contract that say after leaving your job you won't poach customers or go into competition with your old employer. The final one there is exactly what it says it is, an asset freezing injunction. So this is an injunction that the court grants to stop the defendant disposing of various key assets that are perhaps the subject of this court action. So it's to make sure that the assets are preserved until the case has been decided. Okay, try and remember those. For two small little sections there, they can quite often come up in the tests and the exams.